Hey teams, this is Jess Moan. I'm a professional development facilitator in Regions 1 and 2, which is the northwest part of Minnesota. And I get to talk to you today about the part of the CEM Kit with the very hungry caterpillar. So we're going to talk about some of the different things that are in the kit that we've provided for you for examples of props and materials. And then we're going to talk about how these might be used to engage all children in the classroom and also how they might be used to engage individual children. So one of the items in your kit is a board book. And this is provided as we think about this for engagement of all children. Could this be helpful for maybe putting in your classroom library for children to be able to look at during center time? For individual children, we might consider giving this to a child during story time. When the story is being read by a staff member, maybe an individual child can hold this and follow along as they're talking through the story and follow individually with it. This might be an opportunity to utilize zoning for a staff member to be sitting with that child, helping them go through the book at the appropriate pace and follow along. One way. Another option that's kind of similar to the board book you're going to find in the kit here, and there's slides. So we have our first page of the very hungry caterpillar. On this second page right here is a link. So when you go to this online on the CEM Share site, you can click right here on this link and it brings you to, I believe they're PowerPoint slides that you can download, and it tells the story of the very hungry caterpillar. So this can be printed out. For individual children, you might consider printing this out to have them follow along during story time. Maybe the purpose for an individual child is to send home so that they can help retell the story to a caregiver. Maybe you send it with all children home to help with that family engagement piece. So one other additional resource there besides the board book that you could utilize. Also in your CEM kit are different read-alouds. So I'm going to turn the page here, and on the back you're going to notice different QR codes. So you can use this for all children. Perhaps you put these different QR codes at a center in your classroom, and maybe you have an electronic device that children are able to use. Scan the QR code and they can listen to the story read to them or see it. They can listen in English, Spanish, and Hmong. And then down here, there's also a QR code to watch it, the story being signed in American Sign Language. So this could be used for all children at a center. It could also be sent home with all children with that family engagement lens to have them watch or listen with a family member. It could be used for individual children. I especially think about the sign language one. If there's a child that's learning to use sign language, maybe the caregiver doesn't necessarily know sign yet, and so maybe the child knows more than they do. They could watch this together and learn some of the vocabulary pieces. Another prop that we have in here is the flannel board, and then the caterpillar that kind of opens up and you can feed him the different pieces. And then on the back, you can open it up and he expands to become a butterfly. So as we take this flannel board, excuse me, we can think about how to use this for all children. Maybe during story time, each child gets one of these flannel pieces, and then when that's talked about in the story, that child gets to bring it up and feed the caterpillar. When you pass out these pieces, maybe there's a friend that gets to be the helper during that time to give to each child. And the expectation might be for that peer interaction that they say the child's name, hand it to them, and then the child says back to them, "Thank you." So getting some of that peer interaction during the time that we're passing these out can be helpful. Might we use these to sequence? Maybe sequencing all of them is too much, but could we ask children, which came first, the ice cream or the apple? We could even sort by color. So maybe in small groups we have this provided and we ask children to work together to sort them by the different colors. Maybe we use it during transition time. So whichever staff member is zoned to help with the line on the way to wash hands, While they're waiting for everybody to line up, they might take this and say, all right, everyone, I want you to pretend like you are eating an ice cream cone. And then the students can pretend to eat their ice cream cone. Then we might hold up the apple. All right, let's pretend we're eating an apple. It's gonna look a lot different how kids are eating an ice cream cone to how kids are eating an apple. So we can talk about that difference and what that is. Maybe we also, if we're engaging our student that's learning sign language, we use the sign for those. So we're ice cream cone, apple. Not only are we engaging that one student, but we might be engaging all students to learn sign language along at the same time. We could use this individually with students to work on different goals. Maybe at center time, we place this in a center intentionally to try and elicit our target child to retell the story using these props. We might want them to be using first, then. Maybe we just want them to label what these are. We want them to say it, or we want them to respond to us saying it. It might also be motor movement. So for some children, just reaching up and picking this off of the flannel board and putting it somewhere, that might be our objective that we're working on and embedding during that routine of the day. Your kits also include a whiteboard. These can be used for a variety of purposes. One idea that comes to mind with this story is during transition, could hold up the whiteboard and that staff member might draw a picture of one of the foods that the caterpillar eats, and children have to guess what food they're drawing. I see seeds. I wonder if it's a watermelon. Maybe it's a strawberry. They have to try to guess what that is during that time. Your kit also includes some puzzles to put together. And so we might consider using these during different times of the day. This is what the first page of the puzzle looks like, and you'll see that it's kind of broken up into strips based on the first letter, or not the first letter, I'm sorry, based on the letters that are in that item. So we could use these with all children in small groups. It can help with some early literacy skills, some sequencing skills, maybe some cooperation with the buddies they're working with to try to put them in order. We also might use this for buddy play. We pass out the leaves, an apple, a sun, and then we pass out a duplicate of those. And then students need to try and find the other peer that has the same picture that they do. And our expectation might be those 4 interactions back and forth between children that we want to see. With individual children, these might be useful for embedding opportunities within routines for fine motor. If these are cut up, having to pick up the piece and put it in the right order and move it. Might also be for articulation sounds. Maybe a student is working on the letter S, and we want to intentionally embed that into this routine. We are going to make sure that that student gets the sun, and then we talk about the sun a lot during that small group time, or that buddy play time, whatever it might be. So those are the activities that we've kind of provided for you. We want to encourage you to think about other resources that you might use to embed learning opportunities for children and increase their engagement. Think outside the box. Maybe you bring in a laundry basket and you have a caterpillar that you're going to throw beanbags into the basket of that caterpillar. Maybe the basket's the mouth, right? So you're throwing the beanbags into their mouth. We could use this to work on motor skills, turn taking with a buddy, maybe color recognition. Also, you could think about journaling or picture taking. Send the classroom camera home with a student and have them document what one of their favorite foods to eat is. And then when they come back, they can share with the class. Labeling might be worked on during that time. Maybe it's an articulation goal. Maybe it's a peer interaction and they get to tell a peer about what their favorite food is that they took a picture of. So we encourage you to think about different ways to expand with this theme in your classroom.